play. And another foul on board. His third for setting a screen.
Because of physical play, although Jordan Taylor just got caught with a moving screen.
Pick and roll. And a foul. Offensive foul coming up. Ken Valentine standing right there.
Izzo dying for a moving screen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a big-time edition of the Moving Screen Podcast. Dylan, we should have had, the Ride of the Valkyries as the intro theme to this midweek pod.
Well, when you take over the sound work, you can go ahead and make that happen.
Yeah,
this
this
game was built for the moving screen, though. This is finally here.
Unbelievable.
This is why we started the pod.
Unbelievable how this has all worked out. I give full credit to the pod and all of our loyal listeners out there. It all comes down to this, man. How about that?
You've been hyping up Richard Pitino for the last 3 years, and it finally
boom
came true.
The irony actually being that I'd been saying all along, I'm like, yeah, Purdue's going to slip up. It's got to happen. It's got to happen at some time. And I finally resigned myself to the fact that they weren't going to and were actually going to win out. And then, lo and behold, they get patinoed out of nowhere on what was another rough night for Mr. Edwards. And
you take a lot of glee in a rough night.
I don't take glee in it. That's every Purdue game is basically he's the storyline. So, hey, before we get into anything else, what you put the chances at 36% that Purdue would fall to Minnesota?
I did.
Sounded pretty astute in hindsight. What are the
Probably
percentages of Purdue taking an L in Evanston at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon, thus making Saturday's 8 o'clock tip-off, prime time, between Michigan and Michigan State, officially the Moving Screen Super Bowl?
Have you watched Northwestern play recently? 6%. We're giving it 6%.
Wow.
No chance.
Oh, I'm going to have to pass that on
You've seen them play.
Coach Donlin. I don't think he's going to like the sounds of that.
What do you think he would put the chances at?
Probably about 6 or 7%. Yeah. It would be something else, I'll tell you that, if this thing could end up being for everything, for an outright championship. But let's not get greedy. I think
When did Northwestern win its last game?
I don't know. I think that was
January 22nd.
I was going to say before the midterm elections, but I guess it hasn't been that long. But January 22nd, you said?
Yeah, been a minute.
Who was that against?
Indiana at home, because who else?
Sounds about right. Exactly. Well, it's great that the season comes down to this. I'm pumped. It's a good thing we didn't record last night, man, because I was cooking with gas. I was pretty fired up to get going for this one. But I slept, and now I'm trying to get my energy back up. How are you doing over there?
This is a well-rested, beer-free, I think, podcast. So
everyone liked last week's
expectations at the start.
People liked last week's shenanigans. I think we should, if anything, incorporate perhaps a little bit more alcohol into the pod.
I have to stop recording at 9 a.m. then.
Well, I don't know. There's no rules. Some quick business to tend to before we break everything down. Obviously, a big week, not only for this podcast, but actually for the real jobs that Dylan and I have. If you like the pod, if you support the pod, the best way to do so is by subscribing to The Athletic and by subscribing, certainly, to umhoops.com. I'm sure Dylan's going to have all kinds of awesome stuff this week. Do you have any idea of what you're going to be dropping the next couple days?
Yeah, we'll have a lot of stuff about the game on Saturday, obviously. Hopefully something about Xavier Simpson and his season. And we also posted a story yesterday about looking back at the film of how Michigan attacked switching unsuccessfully against Michigan State in the first game and some ways they can adjust. So we'll have all sorts of different things up on the site, so make sure to check all that out. What do you have coming up this week?
Well, this morning, have a story up from being in the locker room as Michigan State players were literally kind of going second by second following the Minnesota Purdue game and realizing that they still had a chance at the Big Ten championship. It was Michigan State's one of the few programs in the country that still allows locker room access and post game. And last night, it really came in handy to be able to watch them kind of go through some emotional swings. So that's up there now. Tomorrow, we will be dropping a profile that I've been working on for a good bit on Ignas Brazdeikis and my trip to Toronto to hang out with his father and learn the story of how this all came to be and where the Brazdeikises are really from and how Ignas came to be who he is. So look for that tomorrow. And then on Friday, a story on what makes Cassius Winston as good as he is that I think people will find interesting. So maybe another thing or two in there. We'll see. But yeah, subscribe. And subscribe also to the podcast. Tell your friends. Big week. Let's get into it, Dylan. Okay. What do you want to talk about first?
So I guess where do we start? We can look back at the last game. I guess what kind of has lasted with you from the Michigan and Michigan State side each in terms of maybe lasting lesson from that game?
Certainly, just how well Michigan State played, the level that they played at in that game, and the kind of just how confounded Michigan was with their change to their ball screen defense and just never was ever really able to figure it all out. And I mean, Beeline just came right out in the post-game press conference and said, they've always been a traditional hard hedge, flat hedge team, and they've never done any of this. And they dared Michigan to shoot, and Michigan didn't shoot well enough. And, obviously Cassius Winston's performance stands out. But then the other thing that kind of stands out to me is, in hindsight, in the days, weeks following that game, I've really come to think more and more about the impact that Charles Matthews' absence had that day. Losing him 45 seconds into the game on a foul, and then losing him to an ankle injury. He went 1 for 8 and also wasn't out there for defense. And Michigan still led by 6 with 12 minutes, 13 minutes left to go. I do wonder if it would have been a different day. And I know people love to get into the whole, well, they were missing this guy and that we were missing this guy, and put all that nonsense aside. Michigan was planning to have Charles Matthews in that game, and it ended up that was the plan, and that plan got blown up. So I wonder how it would have been different, and I don't know if I valued it as much in the immediacy after that game, right? That I've kind of come to since then. What about you?
It was hard because he did play the entire second half. He just didn't play particularly well and did not guard anyone you would have expected that he would have guarded.
While going 1 for 8 on offense.
Yeah, not great. But to be fair, we've seen Matthews go 1 for 8 on offense with a completely fine ankle.
True.
When I watched back a lot of that game, what stood out to me was Michigan State executed their game plan almost perfectly. Mm-hmm. They did not turn it over. They did not really have any defensive breakdowns or mistakes. Michigan made probably more mistakes, more empty possessions in that game than I would say in any game this year. And some of that, obviously, I think back to Beeline's post-game at Maryland. He said, yeah, those teams made us play bad, but we played bad in those losses, and we really learned from them. I think there was a lot of what are you doing here in this game by Michigan that they're going to think that they can eliminate, right? It was just a poorly executed attack overall, and I think that definitely stood out.
And on both ends,
offense and defense.
Exactly.
Just awful mistakes on both sides that you can't make 10 of those mistakes on each side of the game. That's almost a fifth of the game or something like that, right? So I think that was kind of the big standout. And then Winston was just fantastic. He found every gap or mistake that Michigan made on defense and was able to make them pay. I guess going back to Matthews, that's not really necessarily something that will be fixed in the rematch.
Right.
So that's a key point as well.
But there is also a difference of going in knowing that you don't have him. The same way Michigan State went to Indiana, assuming that Kyle Arns was going to play his normal 25 minutes. So that is how you build your game plan. That is how you build your rotations. That is how you come up with your plan for switches. All of these things. When it came, when the realization set in that Kyle couldn't go, that changes everything. So, if I think Michigan will go into this game knowing it's not going to be even if they say it's a game time decision, it's not going to be a game time decision. They will know whether he's playing or not. I think, and that just changes things. I think it just you know what you have, and it makes things significantly easier. For this game, the thing not having or having a solid plan when you're going into a building like this is crucial. Michigan State proving that point 2 weeks ago. That plan was spot on. It was executed perfectly. And you wanted to talk about how to nullify a home court advantage? To have a good plan and execute it. Because that doesn't, the noise doesn't matter when you know what you're doing. And that's what Michigan needs to do on Saturday.
Yeah, and you just can't have empty possessions in a game of this magnitude, especially if they're happening on both ends, right? At Maryland, we saw Michigan have some empty offensive possessions, but they were able to put together 5-6 stops in a row and kind of hold on when they weren't playing well offensively. And then they finally got hot offensively and they were able to pull away. And really, that was similar to what Michigan State did at Michigan. It was a game where no one could really get a stop. Then Michigan State finally did get some stops in the second half and pulled away because Michigan's offense just completely lost itself there over the last 10 minutes.
Right. And, I think, and so much of this game, fair or not, will come down to Cassius Winston versus Xavier Simpson. If you want to come up with just one telltale sign in all of the recent matchups of who has won and why, that's it. Xavier owned him last year. Cassius owned him 2 weeks ago. And it's not a coincidence that both those guys walked out with wins on those days. So, I don't know if it's truly appreciated how good Cassius was in that first matchup. And yeah, a lot of his points came on the free throw line late, but he just controlled the pace of that game. He destroyed Michigan's ball screen defense. 8 assists. He made 7 shots. He dominated the game without making a three-pointer. And that's all you need to know. They scored 77 points because he just carved up a ball screen defense that made some mistakes, but also, even when the coverage was right, he just made plays. And he played at the highest level that day.
Yeah, what I like to say about ball screen offense and defense really is that your defense there's always an out, right? You can't take everything away in a ball screen defense, and the best ball screen guards can find that out no matter where it is. And that's what Winston did really, really well in that game. He was able to hold the ball for just a split second longer than maybe an average guard and then find the roll man opening or a spot up shooter, right? Like he could just being able to control the entire game out of a ball screen is almost impossible to stop when dialed in. So I guess, do you think Michigan will change its ball screen coverage somehow, or is it more just needs to execute it better? Where do you kind of see that at?
I think they need to execute it better, first and foremost. There were a lot of miscommunications, and I was lucky enough to kind of know parts of the game plan a little bit, as much as I'm able to comprehend, and sat near the bench and kind of watched Luke Yaklich watch some of the ball screens, and there was a lot of, pounding his hand on his head of guys just making mistakes. So, first and foremost, it's clean it up. And then secondly, it'll be, I think maybe switch on 1-4. I don't know. That killed him the last time. And Kenny Goins is not slowing down. He's just making shots. He made 5 3-pointers in the first half last night. Like, you can't leave him now. You can't play off of him. I think you got to switch 1-4. And then just kind of roll with it, I guess. What do you think?
Are you going to go in there and convince Xavier Simpson he has to switch 1-4? Reading your story, that didn't seem like it went over very well.
That idea was not applauded in the first matchup, but I think
Those
afterward, when they realized that they lost the game, I think they'd probably be open to suggestions now.
Those 1-4 ball screens, I thought what stood out wasn't so much that hedging left goings wide open. It was more that Michigan's fours are really bad at hedging because they don't do that a lot.
True.
They usually switch that, and Winston was able to split some of those. He was able to really, it was just recovering from that as an uncomfortable thing for Michigan's fours, because usually they never hedge a 1-4 ball screen.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you also are looking at, it's going to be probably Ignas Brazdeikis the entire game this time around, because Isaiah Livers will probably have to play a lot of 3 with Matthews potentially sidelined.
Right, but you could cross switch on defense, no?
You could.
So you could still put Livers on Kenny, but now you're asking Brazdeikis
to guard Aaron Henry, whatever.
Yeah, actually, that's probably the play. That's probably the move, right?
Do you think that...
I was about to say, my confusion was I was about to say Cueto, but yeah, that wouldn't make any sense. So, yeah, I mean, you could have Brazdeikis on Henry, and then just play Livers the whole game and put him on their 4-man and run
Are
those
you
switches.
comfortable with the Livers switching onto Winston?
I'm not comfortable with anyone switching on to Winston, but I'm also,
because the answer to this was quite clearly to put Matthews on Kenny,
correct,
and switch 1-4,
correct,
and that completely takes it out of the game,
right? Which is why his injury is pretty paramount in this game. I don't have a feel for what they're gonna do. I don't know if what this game now means weighs on whether he plays or not, right? The question that I had all along was going to be, if this game is for seeding in the Big Ten tournament, it's really no reason to play Charles Matthews unless he demands to get out there. But now, it's a whole hell of a lot riding on this game. This is, it means a lot to him, for sure.
Yeah, I think last night's result could change at least the thinking in terms of what you're going for this week.
Yeah.
And no one cares if you're a 3 seed or a 2 seed, but you have a chance to win a banner, which is a goal that Michigan has talked about all year. That'll be really curious to see how that plays out this week.
Well, so wait, you just stick to the plan from last game and execute better?
On the 1-5 ball screens, I think that there were some just breakdowns in the scheme. Not that the scheme broke down. So I don't think you do anything crazy on 1-5 ball screens. I think John Teskey did get tired in that game, and that's something you have to worry about. Tillman basically just outlasted him. There were a couple possessions in the final 10 minutes where he just didn't even recover, and Tillman got an easy layup, and I really didn't expect that given how many minutes both of them have played. The 1-4 is definitely trickier. There's a part of you that wants to say, like, if you're going to lose to Kenny Goins shooting threes, you're going to lose to that. But he also has been playing really well, and there's not a lot of other options that can, I guess, beat you in that regard. I think you need to try to I think you probably change it up a little bit, do a little bit of both.
Do both, yeah.
At times, Michigan's defensive strategy comes a little bit predictable, right? And like that's the easiest thing for a great ball screen point guard is if you know what the other team is going to do, you know what the read is going to be, right? So I would probably do a little both, probably try it and see how it turns out. I have a hard time seeing Livers or Brazdeikis staying in front of Winston, though. But even when Livers surprised me in that regard, I guess, in Maryland. He was able to stay in front of some quicker guards and not even stay in front, but body him up at the rim. So I think you have some options there. It'll be interesting to see how, I guess, that plays out.
Agreed. Do you have anything else you want to touch on? I mean, we're going to kind of fly through these. We have a bunch of questions to get through. I think that those will probably cover most of what we need to talk about, right?
Yep, I think it all comes down to Winston, Simpson, two best point guards in the Big Ten.
Yep.
One of them is going to have to win.
There can only be one Highlander.
There you go. Let's get into the questions.
All right. Number one, from Luminati. I get it. That's funny. Let's say the original matchups MSU team, defense, offense, and all, versus the Matthews-less Livers now playing at the 3. How does that change the dynamic of the game? I mean, we talked about this before, but here's the thing. Michigan was basically without Matthews in the first matchup. He was physically on the floor for 28 minutes, but he was a non-factor in the first half when Michigan State scored 39 points and made 5 3-pointers, and was a non-factor in the second half when he was on the court. So, like I said, I think it only really is dictated by the plan. The other thing probably to point out here is that MSU really did dare Michigan to shoot threes in that game, and if Matthews can't go and Livers plays bulk minutes, it does give them another shooter on the floor, and that can make a difference. Michigan only went 5 for 20 on threes in that first game.
That's a good point. And Michigan State loves to pack the paint as much as possible, clog things up, and they really did that effectively in the first game. Brasdakis and Livers are the two best floor spacers Michigan probably has on this team from those corner spots, and if they're both out there, that should create a little extra space for Simpson attacking up top, getting to the basket.
All right, you want to take a question?
Yeah, I don't have the names written down, but basically, do you think Michigan State will stick to the same defensive game plan, switching screens against Michigan's ball screens?
Well, yeah. I mean, it worked the first time, and obviously Michigan was pretty befuddled by it. The thing is, the one group of coaches is always going to be wondering what the other group of coaches is doing, and John Beon's going to watch the film of that game, and they will have a plan that will be better than the first time, because it's one of those deals. If they can find a wrinkle, and suddenly they find a hole where they can just run a bunch of slips to or something like that, and suddenly you just get absolutely picked apart, and then you're scrambling. I don't know. I would assume they stick with a version of what they did.
The game in Ann Arbor was Michigan State's worst defensive game of the year. 1.12 points per possession. 18th best defensive game against Michigan anyone's played all year. So it's this weird situation where Michigan's offense completely lost its way in that final 10 minutes, but it was really, really good for 25 or so minutes.
Now, hold on that point. So they were going under a lot of ball screens, daring Xavier Simpson to shoot, and he made threes, and he did burn them. That said, if I'm going into a game and you're going to tell me that Xavier is going to take...
He made 2 threes.
Yeah, he made 2 in the first half. But I'm just saying, in the first half when Michigan did play really well offensively, they were getting shots that, I would take, right? That's what I'm saying. If Xavier's going to take 7 threes, you're going to let him take 7 threes. He made those 2 early. It was when he got some stuff going to the basket that when they really got rolling. So they're going to have to figure that out. But sorry, you can finish your point.
No. I think they will stick to it. I don't know if they'll stick to it for the whole game. I think going under stuff is almost more effective than switching, and they kind of did a bit of both. But
John Teske did not attempt a 3 in the last game.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, you can defend Michigan's ball screens like Maryland, where John Teske is going to attempt 14 threes over 2 games and make 2, or you can however you guard Michigan is going to determine who shoots threes, right? And what Michigan State did was try to make Simpson shoot him. I wouldn't be surprised if Simpson hits 4 threes at Michigan State just because that's the kind of kid he is.
That says he is. Yeah, totally.
So
would you then switch things up and let Teskey shoot? What are the odds that Teskey's going to go off at Breslin? I mean, certainly crazier things have happened, but
yeah, that's the logic you have to think through, and it's the same as how Michigan's going to guard Michigan State's ball screens. You have to give something up, and you have to design a look that doesn't allow. Or it allows the one thing that you want to give up, and that's the decision you have to make, I think, when you're guarding either of these teams. I think they stick with the same defensive plan, at least to start the game, and then we see where it goes from there. I think Michigan will be a lot more prepared to face that, because you're not talking about a team that, they played ball screens that way this year.
Right.
Michigan State has guarded ball screens like that against Michigan forever, right? So they'll be more prepared to adjust in those regards, I would say.
Okay. From A2 Mike, what will be the one stat you can point to and say that won them the game?
Cassius Winston assists.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because that
is like a press conference when someone gives me a one-word answer, and then I need the immediate follow-up. This is a two-party event. It's a podcast.
That's the barometer of how everyone else on the floor is playing. No one else is going to be creating their own offense, and I don't know that Winston can score enough by himself to beat you. And if you're letting him get 8, 9, 10 assists, that means everyone else is scoring enough to beat you. I think that's where you kind of look. And the same regard, Xavier Simpson's assists tell the same story. Winston had 8 assists in the first game. Simpson had 2 in the first game. That is the barometer of whose offense is working and whose offense is not working. And in this version of both teams, it all comes down to Simpson and Winston passing their teammates into good looks. That's the plan.
I like it. I can get with that. My stat is 3-point percentage. I believe the team with the higher 3-point percentage has won the last 4.
Not the last one, buddy.
What was that?
27% versus 25%.
All right, well, they both shot like shit, but
they haven't they? I feel like they've both shot like shit in several of the recent games. Is that not right?
I thought it was flipped. I thought Michigan State shot 27% and Michigan shot 25%. But either way, I'm sticking with it. 3-point percentage. My other one to keep an eye on, I don't know if this determines things. Michigan, even in the loss, had 12 offensive rebounds in that game. And, you talk about empty possessions. Extra possessions is the other one. So you're talking about Michigan State turnovers. You're talking about Michigan offensive rebounds as things that can swing this thing a little bit. Michigan State really took care of the ball the last time. 6 turnovers. I think in last year's either one of the games they had like 18 turnovers in one of the losses last year. I think it might have been the regular season game. So, those are things. Michigan State's defensive rebounding is
an issue.
Big time. And if Teskey gets, 6 or 7 tip outs and that turn into extra possession threes, right? Those are killers. And, Michigan State is a little bit beaten up, and their bigs are definitely getting gassed in some of these games, and that's just something to watch. It's why they lost at Indiana last weekend for sure.
And you're especially vulnerable against offensive rebounding when you switch. A lot of times that's one of the most effective ways for Michigan to attack switching is even if you're not throwing the ball into Teskey, if he just crashes, he'll have a smaller Cassius Winston or something on him, and he can just go and get on the offensive glass. Michigan was really effective with that for the first few possessions in Ann Arbor, and then kind of went away from it. So that is something to keep an eye on without a doubt.
Yeah. What do you got?
Is John Teskey better on offense than Mo Wagner was on defense?
Is John Teskey better on offense than Mo Wagner was on defense? Yes.
I think.
Although Mo Wagner in like the NCAA tournament in the postseason last year was a perfectly serviceable defender. I mean, he wasn't an all-league guy, but he wasn't, he wasn't some glaring black hole where defensive possessions go to die.
Last year, I was quoted the stat that he was the worst post-up defender in the country. Right. But I also think some of that comes from that was like the synergy number. But a lot of that comes from how Michigan wants to guard post-ups. Whereas if anyone else had Mo, they probably would have brought some kind of double team. But Michigan was very much one-on-one and just live with that. But it was always kind of an ugly number on his defensive resume. Teskey is a star in his role offensively, I would say. Mm-hmm. He only really does 3 things, but he does them all pretty well. Catch the ball, finish, catch the ball and make threes, tip the ball out on offensive rebounds. Like, that's his entire offensive game, but he's good at it. So in that regard, I would say I'd probably go with, yes, he's better on offense than Mo was on defense.
What do you expect from Teskey this weekend?
I thought he played one of his worst games against Michigan State. And I think that he is a really good ball screen defender. He was not in that game. And he needs to, I think maybe a week of rest will help, but he was gassed and he wasn't always able to impact Winston with his hedge, picked up some fouls. So I think he's probably the spot you look at as one of the areas where Michigan can improve the most, because he's certainly capable of playing better minutes there, I would say. You agree that he really struggled in that game?
He did, and he's a key factor in winning and losing for Michigan. He's only made 2 threes in their 4 losses combined. And I don't know how I feel about going into a game plan where, if I'm in the coach's room and I say, okay, we're relying on we're riding John Teskey's 3-point shooting in this game. I don't feel that. He needs to pick his spots. It doesn't need to be either 0 attempts or 8 attempts, right? How about like a nice 2 for 4 night, which would probably be perfect for Michigan, right?
But it all comes down to the defense.
I know if he's open, I get it. But like, if he is open, like he can still pass the ball, and they can probably they might be able to get even a better shot. He doesn't need to shoot every single time he's open.
Yeah, and he's probably one of the biggest tells of, you can absolutely tell if the ball is going in just from his footwork and sort of catch, and the whole mechanics of his shot tell you everything that's going to happen with the result. Were we talking
about that recently?
I think we might have been, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it seems like, he's off when he like jacks his right shoulder, his shooting shoulder, forward on his attempts. And I don't know if it's because it's rushed or it's just a hitch, but like you're spot on. You can totally see by his form what kind of day it's going to be. The interesting thing is that you would think that he would know that too. And some of those days when you're like, ooh, that didn't look good, then he just fires up 5 more, and you're like, all right, well, shoot your shot, big boy.
He's got Tom Beeline and Xavier Simpson yelling at him to shoot the ball over and over again. He has no choice.
There you go.
I've got this from a couple different people, but will Brandon Johns back up Iggy Brasdeikis at the 4?
No.
This one does. Yes, that's the right answer. I don't know.
I don't think Brandon Johns sees the floor in this game, and Colin Castleton's playing the 5.
The way that Michigan backs up the 4 is to slide Livers to the 4 and Poole to the 3, and put one of their backup guards on the floor, either DeJulius or Brooks. That's what you're gonna see probably from here on out.
Yes. From ZB, fill in the blank. Blank will be completely night and day from the last game. Good question. You gonna ride that Teskey train again? It's just sitting there for you. Well, you think about it. My answer.
You already got one.
I got one. I'm very prepared for this podcast, like per usual.
We should have settled on the questions we were going to actually read first. We both prepared our own list, but maybe makes it more genuine.
Well, yeah, there you go. You sit on it a little bit. I'm going to say Matt McQuaid. Even with the gimpy ankle, McQuaid went, 2 for 5 on threes, 1 for 3 on twos in 37 minutes. He finished with 13 points, a couple boards, 2 assists, 1 turnover. I don't know how he'll play in this game, but I expect him to have a bigger impact on this one. I think he'll take.
You didn't think he
did impact the game.
He had a huge impact on the first game,
dude. In the first half, Izzo almost threw him out the window.
Wasn't that early in the second half?
I don't know, man. I don't think he played that well that game. He made a couple big shots, but he also had a number of mental breakdowns. And I don't know. I just think he's going to shoot more. I think he's going to be more of a focal point of the offense and get maybe some better looks, more looks. I don't know. That'd be my guess.
I'll flip it. Jordan Poole.
Okay.
I think his performance in Ann Arbor against Michigan State was probably like rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone knew how much he struggled on both ends of the court. He has shown a little bit of bounce back over the last week. He played really well at Minnesota, I believe it was. I'll go with Poole. I think he'll
pretty much anything would be better than that performance.
That's true. Not
playing would be better than that performance.
He would not have been able to give up that many baskets if he was on the bench.
Exactly. So, all right, that's a good one. You got one?
Does Isaiah Livers need more shots?
Isaiah Livers needs to take the shots that he gets. Look, I don't know if they're particularly need to be drawing up things for him, but when the ball gets to him and he's open, he needs to shoot. You know what I mean? Like when they're just running offense, like just their basic offensive sets create open looks. It's not necessarily we're Xing and O'ing to get this guy this look on this pass. It's you run the offense and you wait for the defense to make a mistake and then you shoot your shot. That's basically what Livers needs to do. He needs to be ready to fire, and on those times when there is a lane, go and attack. And he showed a little bit of it at times, and it's gone well, and other times it's gone not well. There were a couple moments probably in that last game. Who'd they play last weekend?
Maryland.
Was that Maryland? Or like he actually went off the bounce a couple times and kind of forced shots that were more Charles Matthews shots than they were Isaiah Livers shots, and they didn't go well, right? You want to eliminate them, shoot the open threes, and if you see a driving lane, go attack.
So he started the last 2 games, 9 field goal attempts in both games. 14 of his 18 shot attempts have been threes. So basically, since he's came into the starting lineup, he's been in almost a Duncan Robinson role, I would say, right? He's there to space the floor. He's there to attack a close on occasion. I don't really know that you can get him that many more shots when he can't really get his own shot.
9 feels right.
I think 9 a game. Like, if you're getting him 6, 7 threes, he's probably going to make 3, right? So I think that's a good area, and that gives you enough to create spacing for the rest of your offense. Yeah, I don't know that you can dial it up much more than that.
I mean, he's made 3 threes in each of the last 2 games. Like, that's
huge.
That is enormous. Not a coincidence that those are 2 wins. And he's made a 3 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 straight games he's made a 3-pointer in, which is pretty impressive and probably being overlooked right now. But
that is an impressive stat.
Yeah. So, if he can give him that I could definitely see us talking about Isaiah Livers making like 4 threes being the difference in this game if Michigan's able to pull out a win.
So I don't have a question for this, but how do you see, I guess, Michigan State's rotation playing out with some of the injury concerns and stuff? I didn't see most of the game last night. Who played well? How's that working out, do you think?
Well, so last night it was basically, Tom Izzo stuck to his plan of giving Gabe Brown and Thomas Kithier and Foster Lawyer early run and getting them in there. Just knowing Izzo, I wouldn't be that surprised if he actually tries it again and doesn't just go with all 5 starters for 40 minutes, because he's going to see the value. He was talking about this recently. He sees the value of just having at least some fresh legs in the last 5 minutes of a game. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the first half you do actually see a Gabe Brown, maybe even a Foster Lawyer. I don't know if you can ask Cassius Winston to go 40 minutes on with his knees right now. He kind of tweaked it last night a little bit, and was noticeably limping and favoring that knee. That's definitely going to be part of the storyline going into this game. So I don't know if you can play him 40. John Beilein is going to play Xavier Simpson 40, and if he could get 41 out of him, he'll try to sneak in an extra minute somewhere. So I think you'll see a little bit of Gabe Brown. I think you'll see a little bit of Foster Lawyer. Thomas Kithier will certainly get some backup minutes, but a lot of it, can Kyle Larns go? I don't know. It doesn't seem that way to me. Maybe he gives it a try, but from everything that I can gather, he seems like that back's in pretty bad shape right now.
That's the big one for me, is if he can go or not.
And even if he can go, I don't know what he can give them. Even playing, extended minutes, can he bang him a 3 or 2? He'll play his normal gritty defense. He'll go diving for balls and jumping into frays for rebounds, his normal stuff. But I don't know if he's going to be that guy who can actually burn a baseline, right, and go dunk the ball and stuff like that, which he is capable of doing. I don't know if he's capable of doing that right now. So that's kind of where things stand there. Any other questions on the rotation?
No, I mean, that is sort of I feel like both coaches are in a spot where they want to give their bench a few minutes here, and they've both talked about the importance of it, so that'll be interesting to see if they kind of cheat some minutes off of each other around the media timeouts there.
There's a much better chance, I think, of Izzo doing that than Beilein, though.
How would you break down the Castleton versus Kithier minutes? Those will be key. I would say they'll probably try to sink those minutes. When you think?
I would certainly think so. That's an interesting matchup, because they're kind of similar players. Castleton's just longer, bigger. Kithier has a little bit more experience playing. I would go, mainly because of experience, I'd probably go advantage Kithier there.
He played really well in the game in Ann Arbor.
He did.
Really good minutes.
He just gives them good minutes damn near every game. He's just a solid dude who's fairly reliable. Castleton, I think it's still kind of a wild card when you put him in there of what you're actually what you're going to get, how he's going to react. Those eyes can still get big, and I could definitely see him in this atmosphere getting the ball and kind of maybe resorting back to
some old habits.
I'm just going to try to go dunk the ball, and you forget about process and place.
Yeah, without a doubt. You have any other questions over there?
Oh yeah. Well, can MSU win with Winston clearly not 100%?
Is he that?
He's not 100%.
Was he 100% in Ann Arbor?
Sure as hell looked like it. Jesus.
That's what I was going to say. Like, tendonitis isn't something that just comes up. He's been battling it all season.
He has been battling it all season. He
looked pretty damn good in Ann Arbor.
It was noticeably worse last night.
Okay.
I think he banged it or something happened to it that either inflamed things or bothered him. So we'll see. I mean, if he's limping, I don't see this going well for Michigan State. I'll put it that way. So to literally answer the question, no, I don't know if Michigan State can win.
I don't think Michigan State can win if he plays poorly.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't matter how much he hurts, but if he doesn't play well, that's not happening.
From Matt, can either Michigan or Michigan State get a 1 seed if they win out? Yes.
Yes, 100%. Well, not 100. Like, they definitely would be in the conversation if they play till Sunday in the Big Ten tournament, I would say. Oh, shit.
Get it together over there. Jesus. It's a professional operation. Yeah, obviously the fourth number 1 seed has been the topic of conversation as being in play, but Duke. If Duke falls to North Carolina and Duke goes out early in the ACC tournament, and Zion is not guaranteed to go back, I don't know how you can give them a 1. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. They had another close game last night,
Right.
I think, too.
Take the name off the jersey, and I don't know if people are just banking them as a number 1 spot or number 1 seed. So maybe there's maybe there's 2 number 1 seeds still in play, which if either Michigan or Michigan wins out, I think would certainly put them on that line.
Yeah, and if Michigan or Michigan State wins out, I think either one of them will probably end up with like the most Q1 wins in the country, just by playing their way through the Big Ten tournament. They'd at least be up there. I think Michigan State has that now, but either way, that would be a bunch of extra wins. And I guess here's my question for you. Do we see round 3 on Sunday in Chicago? Or the next Sunday?
No. I don't think either. I don't think... Neither team is even close to 100% right now. The odds of both of them running... I could certainly see one of them getting there. I would just say the chances of both of them running through is not 100%. And especially if Michigan State wins the Big Ten, I don't really know how much of a shit Tom Izzo gives about the Big Ten tournament this year. Right?
I would say the loser on Saturday is the team that you would pick to go deep in Chicago.
That sounds right to me. And the winner, I think, might just be going out there, waving to the crowd, play a game or two, head home, get some rest.
The winner is like, wait, you're telling me we got to play Wisconsin on Saturday? This doesn't sound like any fun. Let's go hit the cold tub.
Exactly. I agree with that. As a Michigan fan, this is from Josh Morocco. As a Michigan fan, should the Maryland game allow me to get my hopes up? I mean, I guess they played well against Maryland, but I would imagine, Jesus.
For what? Tomorrow?
I guess
hopes for what?
For
next year?
For life without Matthews? I don't know what the question is. I mean, look, end of the day, Michigan is 26-4 and 15-4 in the league. I mean, it's been win or lose on Sunday. Let's talk about
kudos
this.
For keeping your hopes down for 4 months.
Someone else asked this. Someone else asks, winner gets some people on Twitter suggesting that would be inadequate or unsatisfactory for like if the winner gets a share of at least the title for going 16-4 in the Big Ten. Are these people idiots or are they idiots? Yeah, they're idiots. Is this a thing? I haven't seen this. Is this
I've seen a lot of people trying to complain to me about the fact that the Big Ten title is shared, which is just ludicrous. The tiebreaker does not affect who wins the Big Ten. It's a shared title. It was a shared title when Michigan shared the title in 2012. It doesn't change now just because Michigan actually wins the tiebreaker. I don't understand why people are so upset about this, but there's many people on Twitter who think a shared title is A, shouldn't be shared, and B, is some sort of a slight, I guess. I'm not sure.
Jeez, I mean, I wonder how they feel when it's shared amongst 3 teams.
Which happens quite, like, not all the time, but often. I mean, it's a conference schedule with unbalanced schedule. That happens.
I mean, Michigan's 26-4. Michigan State is 24-6. Regardless of who wins this weekend, this year has been beyond impressive for both of them. These are 2 teams that have both with skill and will put themselves among the top 10 teams in the country, and they're not just there. These aren't faulty rankings. They both played legit schedules, and they're among the best teams in the country. So I hope, my biggest hope in this game on Saturday is that it does justice, for just how good these 2 are, and that it comes down to the last 2 minutes, and it's, haymaker time. Who makes the shot? Who wins the game? Hopefully, the bodies that are in question are out there. I would love to see wrap a hard cast on Nick Ward, throw him out there for a few minutes, right? Wrap up Charles Matthews' ankle, throw him out there. Put a back brace on Kyle Lawrence, throw him out there, and just see who the better team is. Sorry for that rant, but
No, I agree.
I feel like people are nitpicking at a ridiculous level, as if these are like two.
And you're surprised by that?
Fair.
It always comes down to, at the end of the year, the NCAA tournament, though. Like,
yes.
If you look at Michigan State's regular season last year, beyond impressive. What do people remember? The tournament. So that's that's my big problem with how people even evaluate college basketball in general. But that's neither here nor there. Yes, it's an important game, and I think I'm a big believer that Big Ten regular season championships are one of the most impressive things. But both of these teams have had ridiculously good seasons. I 100% agree with that. Here's one about, since I know that you got to sit up and close for that Michigan State game. What is Xavier Simpson's dynamic with Big Ten refs? He's always talking with them about calls, but they never seem to get upset. Quite the contrary.
I mean, he talks. He definitely talks. I think a lot of it is him explaining what he's doing. As opposed to, like, I'm doing this, that's not a foul. And it's smart. I mean, Xavier Simpson's a smart dude. He knows exactly what he's doing. And if you can explain yourself beforehand and a ref sees something, they say, oh, yeah, well, he just told me he was going to do that, so maybe that's not a foul. And, I mean, because, look, Xavier Simpson, if you watch the tape, he clutches and grabs and pushes and tugs and yank a jersey, get a hand up in you more than anyone out. It's not a coincidence that he's the best defensive point guard probably in the country. He knows what he's doing. He knows all the tricks. He knows all the angles. And he plays at the highest level, and some of that includes a little bit of gamesmanship, and you tell the officials what's what.
Yeah, I'd say Xavier Simpson's talking to everyone on the court, other team, his coaches, refs. He's all doing it with a purpose, right? So he knows what he's doing, and he does a pretty good job of it. He does a great job of staying out of foul trouble, despite every point guard in the league would probably say he's the most miserable son of a bitch to play against. Yep. So that's what I would say about that. I got one more for you.
If I ever have to, unfortunately, write, I guess I shouldn't put it in these terms, but, at some point when Xavier Simpson leaves this world, I feel like the first line of his obituary should be what you just said. He was a miserable son of a bitch to play against. That's perfect. You're the real writer here.
Exactly. Should Michigan switch 1 through 5 against Michigan State?
No.
I agree.
I don't see that.
I don't see that happening at all.
Right.
What else you got for me?
And it's pretty hard to just do stuff you've never done, really.
Which makes the game in Ann Arbor so impressive. That Michigan State did that.
Exactly. Game 30 of the season. That's a big ask. Kevin asks...
I have one more thing to add on that. Yeah. What Michigan will do is they'll switch the last ball screen with
the shot clock
6-7 seconds left on the shot clock.
They did that in the first meeting.
They did that in the first meeting. They did that against Maryland. That is sort of because at that point there's not enough time to do something else and exploit the switch.
Right.
So that's something to watch for.
Yeah, you have to be ready for 1-on-1 basically in that moment.
And John Teskey's really good at standing in there in those spots as well.
Yeah, and he's kind of hard to shoot over. So Kevin asks, can we please get a live podcast during the game?
Probably not.
You busy?
I'll be probably setting up in some auxiliary overflow seating in the Breslin Center. Brendan will be sitting there courtside.
I'll be sitting there courtside teaching Graham Couch about basketball on the Hi Graham, I hope you're listening. All right, Moody? He asks, and this is probably, do you have any more questions before I ask this one? Because I feel like this is the capper.
No, I don't think I do.
Okay. Malay asks, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Malay. How utterly drunk is this game going to be? No way it's normal at all. And this is a great point, because we can sit here and talk about this game for 2 more hours, and the fact is, it's probably going to be something completely absurd. All the stars are certainly aligned for nonsense and the unexpected, and some guy that we have not really talked about here doing something completely unforeseen, some coach coming up with some plan that we didn't really anticipate, and then, which way the ball bounces, and does the buzzer beater fall? Does the, crazy play happen? Do the officials end up ruining the game with early fouls, or do they, blow a critical call? Something, of course, will happen in this game that we can't predict, and let's just hope it's for the best. The big question is who's the staff on this game, or the crew, not the staff.
Oh, the officiating crew. Look at you. You're all in on officiating takes. I would say that the drunker the game is, the better chance I'd give to Michigan State.
Okay.
I think to win on the road in a game like this, you want to keep the game to a expectation, right? Michigan's plan will be to keep everything in control, not to get wild, where if someone's going to have some crazy, I guess, outlier performance, you're probably going to bet on it being someone on the home team, home crowd. So that I would go with.
The crew for the last game, for anyone curious, was Terry Oglesby, DJ Carstensen, and Steve Majunkins. I think you could see maybe a combination thereof. Maybe get a little Bo Borowski in the house. Maybe get a little Terry Weimer in there, mixing things up.
I don't think you'll see McJunkins.
No?
He's the one that Fran went crazy on.
Yeah. I'll predict Larry Scroda, though. Because he's the at least the strongest official, and if the building burns down, he might be this crew might need a little muscle behind it, so it might be good to send Larry out there. He's a former police officer, and he takes no shit. So
this game has Terry Weimer written all over it.
Oh, for sure.
He'll be there.
Wait, okay, so let's go predictions. I'm going to guess DJ Carstensen. Larry.
Oh, we're predicting.
Yeah, we're predicting the crew. DJ Carstensen, Larry Scroda, Terry Weimer. That's my three. Who you got?
I will go with Weimer.
Uh-huh.
I will go with. Hold on, I'm thinking here. Got to get my list up. Going with Weimer, Borowski, Oglesby.
Oh, wild card on the end. Okay. I like it.
Cheated. That's the crew that did the Big Ten championship last year.
Oh, that's a good strategy for you, young man. But they're all judged, game to game, year to year, man. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if any of these guys have been considered to have a particularly strong year. Probably not. But
Terry Weimer, fourth on the Ken Palm officiating rankings, getting that work in.
Okay. Well, I definitely didn't expect that to be the closing conversation.
What's your prediction for the game?
I was really hoping to get out of here without having to do that. I predicted a split all year in the series.
But you predicted a home split.
I did predict a home split.
Sorry.
But I'm going to stick with the split.
You're going Michigan. What's the score?
69. Don't do it. To 67.
Michigan State 72. Michigan 65.
Win and a cover. I don't know what the line's going to be, but it won't be 7.
It won't be 7.
Yeah.
Ken Palm line is Michigan State by 4.
What's the opening line on the Burkhart Index?
I would set it around there, 4 or
4?
5.
I'd probably go 3. I think they're really even. These two are really, really even, and I give Michigan State 1 point for having won the last matchup, and I give them 2 points for playing at home. So 3-point line.
And senior, there's just everything kind of lines up there, but at the same time,
that's part of
everything
the point.
lined up in Chrysler.
That is the point, right? Like, it is this. it would be very on brand for this rivalry, for this series, for this league, for, Michigan to go in there and somehow pull this off when everyone's picking against them, and there's a banner sitting there with Big Ten champions written on it that won't see the light of day, or wouldn't see the light of day.
Biggest game in the rivalry?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to go back and actually look at all of them. They've only played 4 times ever as top 10 teams. They've never played in the Big Ten championship game, right?
They have in the Big Ten tournament in 2014.
You were there. That was in the championship, or was that the semifinals? That was the championship. That's right, and I was there. Indianapolis.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. I think the Big Ten. I think the regular season championship's more important than the tournament championship, or not. Importance, who cares? That's semantics, but I think it's more impressive than the tournament championship. So,
the Big Ten tournament championship is the most forgettable game ever because it's 30 minutes before the selection Sunday, and
I literally forgot it. So,
I think it would be. I mean, whoever wins this game is going to be feeling pretty good about themselves coming off of this year, and
totally,
it's going to be a huge letdown for whoever loses. Over under on technical fouls.
Oh,
you got any? Or you going 0?
0.5.
0.5. You taking the over?
I'm taking the under.
Okay, give me the over. Seems like a technical game.
Oh, wow. We were just talking about officiating crews. It would take something. You're not going to have any I don't think you're going to have quick trigger technicals being called by some low-level official who no one's ever heard of. These guys, there would have to be like physical contact for there to be a technical thrown. I will say though, one hook and hold in this game.
Okay, it's a cop out on
That's
Thomas
not a
Kithier.
cop-out. It's a different call.
All right, Thomas Kithier, hook and hold, book it. What's your prop odds on that?
I like that. I like that call.
I'm just glad. Oh, go ahead.
Over under on Xavier Simpson assists. What are you putting it at?
6.5.
That would probably basically be the line of the game too.
Probably how it should be,
as you pointed out earlier.
I'm just glad this game worked out, and Sunday we were thinking it was going to kind of be a letdown. We were making jokes about playing games with the reserve crews.
Which I'm still down for.
Yeah, people like that.
They did like it. They should put that in. What's the old gym? Jennison?
Yeah.
They should put that in that gym at around 3 o'clock.
Noon. Yeah, 3 o'clock. A little pre-action.
Yep. Hit that afternoon slot on BTN.
Be a better watch than the Purdue Northwestern game. No doubt about that.
Uh-huh.
But now
do we know who the
game we all wanted.
Who's the broadcast crew for this game? Do we know?
ESPN, primetime. Is it
Is this a docket special?
Well, it's not game day, right?
No.
It would be I don't even see the notes anywhere.
How about the fact that this game, I think, I might be a little biased to this game, but I think this game totally overshadows Duke, North Carolina.
Ooh.
Only because they don't know Zion's playing, and I mean Duke almost just lost to Wake at home. What the hell's that about?
Also, Duke UNC runs into it, and get your ESPN News channel guide handy, or your Watch ESPN app, because that'd probably run over.
Wait, say that again?
The Duke game is the slot before it.
Oh, right.
So that could definitely run over. So get
People will lose their minds.
Your apps up and running, and your ESPN News on your quick channel finder and all that fun stuff.
All right, so the minute mark right now on this podcast is 1:04. When people completely lose their asses at tip-off on Twitter asking where the hell the game is. I'm just going to refer them to the 104 mark of this pod.
Catch it for the second half.
I really want to know who the broadcast crew is now.
I don't know how to find that. And Googling live on air is
I'm not Googling it. I'm sending a text.
That's probably even worse for quality entertainment.
All right. Do you have any parting messages?
No, I'm excited for Saturday night. Should be a fun one.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit more juice than that, Dylan.
Bring the juice then. All right, that's your job.
Well, I agree with you fully that this game was dangerously close to being a massive letdown, and I'm really glad to be having this conversation right now. There you go. Broadcast crew for this game is Benetti, Molly McGrath, and Dan Dockich.
Line it up.
Who just replied to my text. See? That's why it's not a problem to send a message on air. Get you folks the information you need when you need it. All right. Share this podcast for anyone who might be, having a passing interest in this game. Subscribe to it. If you would be so kind to leave us a rating.
A 5-star rating would be preferred.
Prefer a 5-star rating? What if they don't think it's a 5-star podcast? Who are we kidding?
Skip the rating.
Who are we kidding? Of course it's a 5-star podcast. So give those 5 stars and leave a review if you would be so kind. So we appreciate everyone listening. We will be back with a full recap of the game. We'll try to get it up as close as possible to afterward, but it's going to be tough with an 8:00 game, so just bear with us on that. But that's it. Thanks for listening. Enjoy Saturday, and we'll talk to you soon. Be sure to tip those bartenders and those servers out there. Thanks a lot.